Hello and welcome back to a very strange episode of Bad Flashes. It's not only strange because I'm not deeply entrenched in my closet. No, it's because I'm on the other side of the world right now, quarantined in a 5-star hotel. But we're not talking about where I'm physically located today. Mentally, I'm out of this world. But we're actually talking about a trip that Jason and I took a few weeks back. Think of this episode kind of like the movie Inception. Not because this episode is going to be a masterpiece of mind-bending reality. No, it's because I'm in Morocco talking about a trip that I took with Jason. It's a travel story within a travel story. And don't you try to touch my totem, that's personal. But not only am I going to be talking about the trip that I took with Jason, I'm also going to be talking about the best slide film that Kodak has made since 2018. Yeah, I know, it's the only slide film they make. But that's not the point, it's still the best. I'm lighting this with lamps. I only have so much to work with, okay? So Kodak Ektachrome, what's the big deal? Caleb, it's been 2 years. Why are you not talking about it now? This is 2020, in case you hadn't remembered. It's still 2020. Yeah, Ektachrome. You may know it. You've probably already shot it. You're probably like, Caleb, why am I watching this video of you just yabbering around like you usually do? I don't know. That's for you to figure out with your own decisions in life. But E100, it's a slide film, a positive film. But the weird thing about the word slide nowadays is it's kind of irrelevant. No one's putting positive film in slides anymore and projecting them through a carousel. And if you are, well, good for you. Golf clap. And the thing is Ektachrome actually comes in a lot of different shapes and sizes. 35mm, 120, and 4x5. And that's just for stills. If you want, you can actually burn through some sweet, silky saturation in the form of Super 8 and 16. I've actually shot Ektachrome in Super 8 before, but I haven't shelled out for 16 yet. Someday. Ooh, someday. But today, I'm gonna go through some examples of all the different still formats of E100. So on our first journey out, we ended up getting into Jason's vehicle and driving like the wind. We headed up north to San Luis Obispo. We were gonna meet our homie, Andrew Ball. And what do you do in San Luis Obispo? Go to beaches. When I got to this first beach, I put in some Cinestill 50D. Now I know this is an Ektachrome review, so we're not gonna get into those, but here you go. You get it for free. Who doesn't like free? Free bread. Got free bread over here.
Jason, what's up, buddy? Tell me your deepest, darkest secret. Well, one time, I killed a man for some Cinestill 800D. So I broke into this guy's house and stabbed him 130 times. He said I could just take it, but no. I kind of wanted to murder anyway.
Can you let me out? So since I never learned discipline as a young child, I ended up bringing a lot of cameras with me. My Minolta for 35, I know, I'll do a video. My baby love, the Pentax 6.7, I had just received it the day before we left, so I couldn't leave it behind. Yeah, I'll do a review for that one. My newly acquired GW690 for 120, I know, I'll do a review. And my Intrepid 4x5 for all my large format film. And no, you don't get a review for that one. Just kidding, of course you're gonna get a review. Once we were done with that first beach, we decided to go to a Shipwreck at sunset. The sweet light just hitting it. Pew! I knew I had to take out my 4x5 and throw some Ektachrome through it. After spending some time with the lovely crew of the Davy Jones, we ended up going into Pismo Beach where we were going to stay for the night, and naturally had to do some night photography. At that point, I put some Lomo 800 and some Portrait 800 through my cameras. My last video went through those films. All about that bass.
Yeah, they're just like,
It's pretty funny.
yeah, it's funny. Yeah, it's not the, it's 19.
Well, after a wonderful night's sleep in Pismo Beach, Jason and I hit the road again. We drove along the coast so we could stop, get out, and take photos whenever we wanted to. We ended up finding a lighthouse at the perfect time of day.
Gucci gang.
Kodak claims that Ektachrome is extremely fine-grained film. It actually says it right there on the box. It's just touting it right in front of your face. It's almost like just telling Velvia to shut the f up. Sit down, Velvia. It's kind of like going to a fine dining restaurant, except for, well, you can kind of afford this. It's also worth mentioning that Ektachrome is a daylight balanced film. On most of the boxes, it won't spell it out for you. You'll have to go into the documents and read. But who has time for that? No one. You'd rather be out shooting. But on the motion picture stock, it actually does specify Ektachrome 100D. D for Damn Daniel.
Oh my god, it's Lucas! Ah!
That next day would be purely Ektachrome. 150 billion% E100 in my cameras. We had to wake up early to get the sunrise for our first stop.
6:30 is not always fun.
At that shipwreck, I ended up taking out my 4x5, my 120, and my 35mm camera. It was a great location that I just really couldn't pass up shooting on all formats. To be perfectly honest with you, besides bubble baths, shooting slide in my 4x5 is one of my favorite things. When you get your film developed, you can see the image clear as day. It's magical. I almost want to shoot exclusively slide film in my 4x5. Sure, it's more expensive overall, but who doesn't need a little bit of magic in their lives? We all do. It's 2020.
Here comes the sun. Do 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 do.
Walking up the Point Rainbow, yeah, walking up the Point Rainbow.
biggest thing you have to keep in mind when you're shooting Ektachrome is how you're metering the scene. Slide film doesn't have the same dynamic range as color negative film does. We're talking about 1.5 stops in either direction. But I do have to say, sometimes I've noticed the shadows getting real muddy real fast. So don't forget to wear your rain boots. So when it comes to high contrast scenes, I suggest metering for whatever your subject is in the frame. When shooting with my Minolta, it's a center weighted meter, but also takes into consideration the entire frame. So I think for some of my 35mm photos, they were a little bit on the dark side. I knew they were too old to be trained as Jedis. So when I was shooting medium format, neither of my cameras have light meters. So I ended up using the light meter within my phone. I metered for the shadows and I metered for the highlights, split the difference, but favored the highlights a bit. And sometimes for my medium format shots, I set the meter to 125, measured for the shadows, measured for the highlights, then split the difference. Less math that way. And let's face it, I never passed math class. Back there, just hanging out, partying, you know? Can I party with you, elk? Literally, a bat just flew at us. Let's see, is it up there still? And after I almost got murdered by a bloodthirsty animal, we ended up going to one more village that was semi-abandoned. Really, it was in great condition and it was just a bunch of white buildings, so I don't really know what that was. I bet Jason does, but you know, sometimes I'm just along for the ride. So I'm gonna spit some prices at you right now. If you're looking to get Ektachrome in 35, you'll be spending 15 bucks per roll. That's about $2 a shot. If you're looking into 120, it's about $12 a roll, and that's about 89 cents per image. And if you want to do the big dog itself, 4x5 large format, you'll be looking at $58 for a pack of 10 shots. And that's about $5 a sheet. Now, it's not cheap, but what do you expect? It's sexy. It's dead sexy. I love it. Just like... our third day was so action-packed and fun-filled, we kind of had to slow the roll a little bit. We couldn't just blow our Ektachrome right away. We ended up just getting drunk at a bunch of wineries around the town. We're in the Bay. What else do you do? Later that day, after I was finished fighting my hangover, we decided to go to a little beach town to take photos at sunset. Now, some of the photos that I took there are actually in my last video as well, but while we were there, I started shooting E100. The sunset was immaculate. That town was really cool. I'd definitely go there just for the end of the world. Just watch the sun burn to oblivion. This is a happy channel, by the way. You hear that from take 2 miles that way? On the whole, Ektachrome kind of comes out with a bluish tint to it, especially in the shadows. Sometimes though, it can come out with a yellowish, warmish kind of tint to it, kind of like this shot from Lake Dolores. Usually, on color casts like that, you can point to the scanning process, but it's slide film, so the image is the image is the image. You can hold it up to the light and it's exactly the same. So far, I boiled it down to the lighting conditions of the day that you're shooting. But if you have any idea what I'm talking about and seen some of the same things in your images, let me know. Put it down in the comments. Well, the time had come. Unfortunately, the next day, we had to leave. We couldn't stay any longer. We both kind of had to get back to work in some capacity. But obviously, there was one stop along the way we had to make. An abandoned Chinese restaurant.
For lease. Sure.
So when it comes to comparing all these different formats, you can expect great results among them all. Overall, I like the results that I get from a larger format over 35, but that's just me. So you might be asking yourself, should I shoot slide film? Will it be worth the cash monies? Yeah, do it. You have to learn how to meter and expose the shot without saving it in post. It's also WYSIWYG. It's what you see is what you get. Yeah, I know, it's a weird acronym. Ektachrome is what Ektachrome is. Where I think Ektachrome really shines in my complete biased opinion is in larger formats. It looks great in 120. You can look at the negative, it's big, it's juicy, it's sexy. You can look at 4x5 and just be completely blown away. Yeah, that says it all. Now 35 is cool to look at, but it's kind of small, so take that for what it is. But really, they're all super fine grain, so you can't go wrong. You just can't. But hey, this is my opinion and my show, so you gotta listen to me. Or not. I guess you could just click the X and not listen to me. But don't do that. Now, on the flip side, would I exclusively just shoot E100? Probably not. As much as I do enjoy the image and the look and the colors of Ektachrome, I think I'd miss the dynamic range of a Portra. But, like I've said multiple times, 4x5, baby. 4x5. So we've reached the end here. Is this reality or is it a dream? Of course my totem is a film canister. What do you expect from me? Well, I hope that was a very educational and, informational episode here in this hotel in Morocco. Sure, the lighting is not as, refined, but you do what you can with the things you got. Or not, who knows. Well, I hope you join me next time because Boy, I got stories for you. Yeah, stories. By the way, the guy who shot Eyes Wide Shut is sitting out there. That's a Kubrick film. Bye!